9 BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan. Rochester. An Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big timer, a social misfit. Clueless to the title of the biggest buskeg hits. Chuck Munchie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, cute Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Alan. Of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
A very good afternoon to you as we welcome you on into Rochester's only local sports talk show. This is the Sports Bar, Danger and Battaglia. Happy to be with you to start your sports weekend here at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The Fan Rochester and the free-to-download Odyssey app or on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. We're also streaming live on our YouTube channel this afternoon. You can watch the Sports Bar at the Fan Rochester on YouTube, and make sure you like and subscribe while you're there. I'm Danger, that's Battaglia.
I am bringing this conversation to air that you just had with me 1 minute before we went to the air. You talking about you hustling me.
Oh, I was hustling you?
Well, that I've had this string of bad beats here.
Are you going to tell the whole story, or do you just okay? The whole story is this: Gino and I, over the course of our time on this show together, have engaged in a couple of friendly bets. Never for high stakes, always for a box of wine. Or what did I get for the Carson Wets? Was that a box of wine as well?
Yeah, it's been a box of wine, and I've heard it. I think pointed out like you guys need to raise the stakes with. And I think that's kind of the spirit.
Well,
of
you're
this.
not a bourbon drinker. I would bet you a bottle of bourbon, except you're not a bourbon drinker. So we go with the box of wine because I'll enjoy a box of wine like you'll enjoy a box of wine. I'd prefer a bottle of bourbon, but that's fine. We have a game that we play at training camp, generally at training camp, because if you listen to our shows when the Bills are at St. John Fisher, a lot of times we have to pre-record our segments. A lot of our segments, especially our interviews, are pre-recorded because we're kind of at the mercy of the Buffalo Bills practice schedule. And we're on the air in the afternoon, and they're not practicing in the afternoon. They're practicing in the morning. So we get players and Brandon Bean, and we get them when we get them. And when we get them, we usually tape. And when we tape in advance, we have a game. We just amuse ourselves with these little games, whether it's you and the pizza dude with your little middle finger game that you guys play with each other, or the game that we play, which is guess how long that segment was. We record a segment and then we say, how long is that segment? And we narrow it down to, we try to get it down to like as close to the exact time as possible. And I think over the course of training camp, especially this last year, we were neck and neck. We actually have to get a running tally so that at the end of training camp we can say, I was only off by 3 minutes and 5 seconds for the entirety of camp. Do a running tabulation of how off we are, and maybe throw in a bonus if we hit it right on the nose.
Yeah, look, we're gonna put this all down on paper for our game. Our internal game there.
Yeah.
One of these times I need to win a bet. You then said, "Did you run this by the executive?"
Yeah, I said,
producer?
I said, do you want to bet? Because we did tape an interview today. We'll give you full disclosure and a peek behind the curtain. Thor Nystrom is in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, but he's going to be flying at the time that we are on the air. So we were able to get Thor before he jumps on his flight, and we pre-recorded it earlier. And I asked Gino, what do you think the length was? And he was off by a minute and a few seconds. I'm like, it's not bad. And your thought was, well, I got to get back into training camp form. When the sun is out and you're outside, you're a little bit sharper. I'm like, do you want to bet? And you and you said, yeah. You're like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, oh boy, where's the executive producer?
Where's the executive
She needs to
producer?
get on the phone here and set you straight because you're being a degenerate again. You're being a competitive degenerate, and you don't want to be betting with me, Gino.
But then you brought up hustling. Like, boy, it used to be something back in the day, hustling there, and you brought up, white men can't jump, the ultimate hustler.
Well, I think, through time, different things happen and different things become kind of standard practice. I just remember growing up as a kid, there were a lot of songs about rambling, right? Remember rambling, ramble on, gotta ramble, like just guys just kind of like going from town to town, going from girl to girl, no cares in the world. I'm just gonna ramble on. I think of you didn't watch Mad Men, but I think Don Draper is a guy that is like a rambler at the end of Mad Men. He just becomes a rambler. He's just a guy who just rambles on. In the 80s and 90s, it felt like hustling became a thing. And you told me the story before we got on the air about your college roommate.
I think he hustled me.
He absolutely hustled you.
No, well, he's a really good friend. His name's Andy. And look, he's prank called me on the show here with prank take you with the Chuck Muncie call. All right. We have this thing where, hey, do you want to play racquetball? Yeah.
Is there anything more 80s, by the way, than saying, do you want to play racquetball? Racquetball used to be a thing.
Racquetball. So technically this is the 90s, but still,
yeah.
It's not, today would be pickleball, I suppose. But this is the version of pickleball back in the 90s and 80s and whatever. And he I don't know if this goes back to my roots here. Hey, let's bet a steak. And Thursday nights at the Fordham Ramskeller, it was steak night.
Very good.
And the first time, I win. I won the steak. And my friend Andy had to buy the steak. And then the next time I lost.
Uh-huh.
And the time after that, I lost.
The next 10 times you lost. Losing started to get old.
Did he suddenly get that much better?
He hustled you. He absolutely hustled you. You remember there was a movie about hustling too with Tom Cruise and Paul Newman, right? The Color of Money.
Yes,
It was there's so many movies about hustling. Oh, you mentioned White Man Can't Jump. Hustling was a thing. Guys got hustled all the time. All the time. Andy hustled you. He absolutely hustled
me.
He made you think.
So that's why I'm like, holy cow. I am dealing with a top 20 programmer in the nation. Somebody that has a mind for radio, that somebody who doesn't need a stopwatch.
Here we go again.
That if I'm entering this bet, I might win the first two here, and then over the course of time, he's going to add up, and I'm going to end up paying you up again. You wouldn't hustle me.
I do have an internal clock, though. I kind of have that internal clock always going when I'm on the air, and that goes back to the early days of me being a baby DJ and not having anything automated. There was no computers. Everything was, either you're playing a cartridge or a CD, but eventually that song is going to run out. And when that song runs out, you've got to be there. You can't have dead air. Well, when you're on the air and you're doing a live show, at times nature calls. And if nature calls, you have to have that internal clock to know. Look, I didn't have a stopwatch. I didn't have an Apple Watch on my wrist. You just had to have an internal clock. You had to know I've only got 2.5 minutes to get my business done, so I got to move fast. And that's where the internal clock comes in. The internal
clock, like a lot of jocks back in the day where one of my first jobs, it was in this building where CMF jocks, the back hallway, reeked of smoke.
Oh, yeah.
So you talk about nature calls.
Yeah.
No, for a lot
No,
of
they
these
go
guys,
rip out a dart.
Yeah, they would go rip a dart, and they knew exactly how many puffs it would take, and they would never miss a song.
It never used to be that way either, by the way. I mean, imagine a day where you would walk into a radio station's on-air studio, and you'd look at the ceiling, and it would just be discolored, like yellowish, brownish tar, just disgusting, because smoking was fine. We could all smoke inside a studio. Never again, and we're not going backwards. That doesn't happen anymore, but you still have to have that internal clock. So maybe that's where it comes from, is just that years and years of repetition of just knowing this song only grants me a few minutes to be able to get down the hallway, do my business, get back in time to, hit the next song.
So the point of this long story is I'm actually concerned you're going to hustle me. You would never hustle me, Danger.
I wouldn't hustle you, but I have a sense that I might be better at this game than you. If you want a timeout,
that's an indirect hustle.
If you
that's
want,
wow. Well, then give me a point spread. Give me like a minute lead in this game.
Oh no, I'm not giving you a spread. No spread. It's a pick 'em, and you better get permission from the executive producer before training camp if you want to continue this conversation. And I might want to make it a little bit more interesting. I'll give you a box of wine if you win, but if I win, we're going bottle of bourbon. I'm gonna give you a bottle. I'll give you a brand. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna send you on a mission. This is the bottle I want if I win. You get a box of wine.
I don't even know what bottles of bourbon cost.
Good bottles like $50.
Wait. What the value of a box of wine? You can get boxes of wine for $9.99 if you search.
Well, that's the boxes you're buying. I'll buy you a good bottle of wine. I'll get you a good box of wine. I'll buy a box of wine in bulk. I'll get you a case of wine. We mentioned Thor Nystrom. He is going to join us. We talked to him earlier, and we've got that conversation lined up for you here in about 15 minutes. He's down in Mobile. He actually had our conversation while in an Uber.
Yeah, we wanted to get him, and you got to understand, too, for a lot of these guys that are down there, you're there to watch the practices and talk to the actual draft entities. So when we talked to Thor, he mentioned one guy in particular we'll know that he actually spoke to, and he thinks that, okay, this guy could actually help here, this running back. And also, too, it's from a Bills angle, okay? The Bills have some needs. Defensive line. What if Ty Johnson ends up leaving by free agency? There are other things. So these questions, most of them coming from a Bills angle. Thor Nystrom, who is now with Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life, wrapping up a week of practices and interviews down in Mobile. We'll get his thoughts coming up here, our conversation at 3:25.
Yeah, and just to kind of tease it a little bit more, Gino, I wanted to ask him, to kind of continue our conversation from yesterday. We heard Bean and McDermott mention that Dalton Kincaid should get bigger and more physical this offseason in an effort to stay healthy in the NFL. And that opens up a Pandora's box to me. That makes you question every first or second round, every early round draft pick that they've made here that hasn't panned out. Some of them have, but not all of them have. And you could look at Keon Coleman's rookie season and say, it was kind of a disappointment. You could say Cole Bishop couldn't really get on the field until he absolutely needed to get on the field. Dalton Kincaid is well documented. Certainly you can go back and look at Kyer Elam's time with Buffalo and say that didn't work out at all. He's a bust. So I guess my question for Thor would be, why? Why do you think the Bills have struggled at getting meaningful production early in their careers? And Thor gave us one of those names that I just mentioned is somebody's like, I wasn't surprised to see the lack of production. When they drafted him, I kind of viewed him as a one-trick pony anyways. I'm like, ooh. So we'll let Thor kind of explain that here in a few.
Also, it's easy to kind of predict who's going to go where. Maybe I shouldn't say easy, but you can figure who might be a first rounder. But could there be somebody that's down in Mobile? Danger. I had never heard of this guy. You brought up his name, and yeah, that would fit Sean McDermott in round 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So, who could the Bills be looking at the end of the draft? There?
It's just it's a story and a guy that when you hear the story and you hear a little bit more about him, it's hard not to visualize him being a McDermott guy. I don't know if he wrestles or not. That's the one part I didn't see. I don't know if he was a wrestler and a football player, but if he has any sort of wrestling in his background, slam dunk. I'll call it now.
We'll search that up during the break.
Yeah, absolutely. So Thor Nystrom is going to stop by the sports bar here in a couple few, and we'll get his notes from Senior Bowl shared with you here in the sports bar. The Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line is open. You can call us anytime this afternoon at 866-4FAN. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street in ER, goodsmokebbq.com. We'll also be giving away more tickets to see Jim Jeffries at Kodak Center, more tickets to see Train with special guest Edwin McCain at CMAC. Those tickets coming up throughout the course of the afternoon here as well in the sports bar.
Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate that. I love that. So stick around. We'll give that away before 5 o'clock.
Yeah, we've actually arrived. We've got prizes to give away. It's awesome.
We've made it to the year 1994. This is good. This is a good thing.
The other conversation that you and I were having just before we got on the air, and I know that a lot of this might be just the bitterness still of the Bills losing to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. I've heard a lot of what people have been saying this week about the outcome. And I know a lot of it is emotion. A lot of it is the Bills lost, the NFL is rigged, the refs had it in for the Bills, blah, blah, blah. And the NFL is nobody's going to watch the Super Bowl. The NFL is going to feel this. First of all, I think that's ridiculous. I don't think the NFL is going to feel anything except perhaps maybe a slight decline in ratings. And we heard about that through the course of the postseason. There was a little bit of a dip from 24 to 25. Will the Super Bowl follow suit, given that it's two teams that have recently been in the Super Bowl? Gene, I'll just say it. The Chiefs and the Eagles, both good. I expect a good game, but the matchup at best is boring when you consider all of the options that were there for the NFL. And I guess for anybody that believes the NFL is scripted, the writers left better stories on the cutting room floor.
What, Washington? That would be a better story than Saquon Barkley? I would say that's a toss-up. Philadelphia is really, really good, Danger.
No, they're good teams. I'm
going to say you're looking through the Western New York lens here. If you said, hey, as compared to 2 years ago, would Philadelphia and Kansas City be matching the same number? That's up for grabs. But to say that the ratings are going to be way down this year, no. Like, middle America loves themselves some Kansas City Chiefs, and this feeds into the conspiracy theory that, the Chiefs are kind of cut out for this in terms of pumping up the ratings and getting the pop star and all that jazz here. I'm going to reserve judgment on this one until after the Super Bowl.
No, you have to have a take.
I'm telling you my take.
You think it's going to be higher?
Yeah.
You're saying you reserve judgment, but you think the ratings this year will be higher than last year.
I'm trying to be nice. I'm not going to be like, you're wrong.
I get it. No,
I don't think to hear that. Though.
I don't think I'm wrong. Here's why. Because when you look at the potential matchups that could have happened outside of Kansas City, and again, I get it. They're both good teams, and it's probably going to be a competitive game. And that if it is a competitive game, then maybe it helps the ratings. And you're right. The ratings will be higher than they were last year. But when you consider that it could have been Vikings and Bills, you had two teams that have never won a Super Bowl, that have been to the Super Bowl multiple times and can't get over. You could have had Lions and Bills, a team that's never been to the Super Bowl against a team that's lost 4 Super Bowls. The Bills-Commanders would have been exciting. Eagles-Bills would have been fine. And again, I know I'm a little bit biased here in viewing this through the Western New York lens, but hell, Lamar in his first Super Bowl would have been more captivating than this matchup. Really, you have the Barkley story on one side. I think we all want to see Saquon Barkley succeed because we just love the player. And then the other side, history potentially could be made. But if the Chiefs win their third straight Super Bowl, are we really viewing it as other than, it's what we already knew? They're doing something that no other team has ever done before.
I think I'm just going to come out and say I was being, kind of diplomatic. You're dead wrong on this. You're dead wrong. Okay, this is 2 in 3 years. We had a 2 in 4 years, Chiefs and Niners. First time the Chiefs-Niners matched up, it was a decent number on Fox. This is before the pandemic. It was 101.3 million average viewers. So that's what I'm going to go by, the average viewers.
Was that a pandemic Super Bowl? No, the pandemic Super Bowl was Brady.
It was Brady, right.
So this was the first after the pandemic.
Nope, first before.
Before the pandemic.
Before, because what I remember about this, too, was, oh, my gosh, because one of the first outbreaks was in San Francisco. Had San Francisco won, we were all kind of concerned with that.
Oh, right. This was the Garoppolo game where if he connects deep, we have a game. With
Emmanuel Sanders, right. And then Tyreek Hill gets it late. That drew 101.3 million average viewers, this according to Nielsen. Go ahead now to last year, where you have 20 more million average viewers on that. For the Chiefs, 114 million the year before on Fox, 120 million. So last year, 114 2 years ago against the Eagles, 114. They will top that. What you're saying is based in emotion here.
So do you think? So last year was 114 million. Mm-hmm. Chiefs Niners was 114 million.
No, Chiefs last year was 120 million.
120 million for Chiefs Niners.
Eagles was 114.
Okay,
so they went up by 6 million year over year, and maybe you could say, well, Taylor Swift wasn't in the picture, 2 years ago. Sure.
120 million last year. Will this year's Super Bowl eclipse that or be less than that?
I think they eclipse it.
You think they're going to have more than 120 million?
I think they set the record.
You think that it's going to be a record-setting Super Bowl?
Yep, we're not going by share or anything like that, but just
audience, yeah.
Just audience, yeah.
So over 120 million in a record. What's the record? Is that the record? 120 million?
Yeah, and also if you want to add in Nickelodeon last year, that was another million. Just that simply watch the game on Nickelodeon. So let's just say the combined
Fox has it this year.
Yeah, Fox has it.
Okay. I don't think it's going to get 120 million. I think it'll be below 120. And I get it. Like it could be a historic night. I mean, we've never seen a team three-peat. And quite honestly, I don't talk to a lot of people that care, that want to see a team. I'm talking not hardcore sports fans. We're hardcore sports fans. But I think the average consumer, the average viewer, doesn't care about it being their third time. And a lot of them are saying what we hate them to say, what we hate them saying, which is,
when are you going to Virginia? Like, that's where you got to go. You manage the stations down in Virginia. Get away from the blast zone here a little bit, where we're all kind of butthurt a little bit. Like, if you go down there and you're just kind of sampling with people and you're talking to people, they'll be like, yeah, I'm tuning in because I want to see the Chiefs lose. Now that becomes kind of a thing, right? They become the villain.
Yeah. I don't know. I know that I'm in the blast zone, and I know that some of this is emotional, but
here's another tell that you're going to have a record audience. Ready? Last year set the record for 30-second commercial, 7 million.
Oh, it's 8 million this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Did it go to 8 million because they got really greedy, or is that actually the market kind of dictating it? It's the market kind of dictating it.
Or they just have a really good sales team there at Fox. Just knows how to get more money. Well, we'll see. I mean, we've got a whole week to talk about that matchup. It still stings a little bit.
Yeah. Boy, it feels like we're not. I think we're kind of self-aware, though, enough here in the sports bar. Like, yeah, we could talk about it. Maybe we'll get to that point. I don't know about you, Danger. I lost sleep this week thinking about all the woulda, coulda, shoulda with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. You can engage with us on X at the Fan Rochester. One of our regulars reaching out. That's the user handle, Rubber Band Mouth. Racquetball is the best sport ever. I still play weekly, and I'm 57. Screw pickleball and get off my lawn.
I want to meet Rubber Band Mouth.
I do too.
Where I used to play racquetball, it's no longer available. The Carlson Center, the Y there. Like, where could you play racquetball now?
I don't know.
There were courts at RIT years ago. Yeah.
My old health club, downtown fitness club, had racquetball courts. John H. is probably listening to our show. He listens frequently. I remember there being racquetball courts like on the second and third floor of the building there, and you could get down with some racquetball. I
still have my racket. I have all the balls there, those blue rubbery ones.
I just feel with pickleball, like pickleball to me feels like I've given up on life. I know that there's people that are playing pickleball and enjoy playing pickleball, but I feel like if I start playing pickleball, I've given up on life. That's a step towards me dying.
I feel like I want to bring back racquetball.
I never played.
Racquetball, squash, all that. Yeah.
Played a little tennis. I'll play a little tennis. You know, my wife likes to go play tennis, and she always gets mad at me when I'm like, because I don't love playing tennis, but I'll play. I'm not good, and she's not good, and like that's part of it. It's like I want to play because I know I can play, and with tennis or racquetball or probably pickleball as well, I'm like, racket sport, not really for me.
We got on racquetball because it took me years later. Like, wait a second, I think my friend hustled me.
Oh, he absolutely hustled you.
Yeah,
he absolutely hustled you. You absolutely got hustled.
So naive.
Where's he from? Where's Andy from originally?
He's from California. Right? Yeah. Well, New York to California.
Hey, so he hustled you. He hustled. You're the small town guy that was in Fordham.
Wow,
you're the yokel.
Rochester.
Yeah, you're the yokel.
Wow, this is really fun. I love this steak.
He knew he could take you. He knew he could take you.
I don't know why I'm giving myself this voice. I'm excited to be in New York.
Pete reaching out on X at the Fan Rochester. Sports bar pollster. I want to hear Mike Danger in a Minnesota accent say, "Don't you know all of America would get behind Skol? Skol Vikings." Yeah, Pete. Vikings Bills would have been fantastic. Lions. Vikings Bills would have been fantastic. Lions Bills would have been fantastic, and I guess the Bills would have made this Super Bowl more interesting than what we're having, even though there's an opportunity for it to be historic. And I guarantee you, Gino, if you think the number is going to be high for this matchup, if you would have had the Bills in this matchup, there's no question you're breaking records.
Well, it also could just be like, hey, the NFL has never been more popular than it is today. So, right. So you could have had any of these matchups and it still could set a record theoretically.
But I am worried about the fact that postseason viewership has been down a little bit from last year.
Does any of that have to do with the college football playoff?
Ooh. Well, there wasn't any conflict, but there was
No,
more football, that's for
yeah,
sure.
like the take from our guy Frank here in the office, the same guy that played a prank on our boss there, said that our sculpture in the lobby was from the Edmonds Fitzgerald. Frank, come on, he had the anti-guy to like, I'm kind of getting footballed out. What? Footballed out?
Yeah.
No.
I can't get there. I
No.
can't bring myself to that. I can still say that it's a boring matchup, but I can't say I'm tired of football. I'm going to miss it when it's gone.
No, it's not a boring matchup. I'm supposed to be neutral here, Danger. I'm supposed to not be hating on the Chiefs or whatever.
You can hate on the Chiefs. It's okay. I think a lot of people hate on the Chiefs. Chiefs fatigue is real. It's absolutely real.
Well, you need to respect. I'm Jay Binkley. You need to respect the Chiefs.
Chiefs fatigue is real.
We're not being respected.
No. And Jay, Chiefs fatigue is real. All right, we got to take a break. Let's get to Thor. Thor Nystrom joining us from Mobile, the Senior Bowl. We'll get his notes, his wrap on the Senior Bowl, a week of practices under his belt, and, of course, the game coming up this weekend. Thor Nystrom from Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life, our guest next on The Fan Rochester. Before we get to Thor, let's give away one of those free pairs of tickets right now to see comedian Jim Jeffries at Kodak Center. That show is happening May 10th. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. You'll get a free pair for Jim Jeffries at Kodak Center if you caller 5 right now, 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening to The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
Ready to upgrade those old windows? Now's the time with Window Nation. 50% off all window styles plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 years. Visit windownation.com.
Our Amerks are in action tonight at 7:05 on 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different.
update.
Rochester Americans looking to make it 3 in a row tonight as they host the Syracuse Crunch. Head coach Mike Leone on the opponent.
It's a good opportunity tonight to play against a real heavy team. We've played pretty much everyone. This was the best defensive team we'll play all year. And they're hard. And it's a different kind of game you got to play. You got to play patient. You can't cheat for offense. You got to keep doing the right thing over and over. And if you want to cheat, it'll be a long night for us.
Don Stevens, Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call tonight here on The Fan beginning at 7. Rob Ray, Rays are going into the Sabres Hall of Fame tonight. Sabres hosting Nashville, the coverage beginning at 7 on 96.5 WCMF. RIT men, they need to start getting some wins as they play tonight, the first of 2 at Air Force. The women are home this weekend, tonight taking on Mercyhurst. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Welcome back to the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. You know, we've spent so much time this week, Gino, talking about the AFC Championship game and kind of mending our wounds. The Senior Bowl has been going on all week in Mobile, Alabama. And I guess we're fortunate that the Bills are in this situation where we're not really talking about any of these prospects because we're talking about actual meaningful football games. But you know, if we're going to talk Senior Bowl, we got to bring in our guy, Thor Nystrom, our superhero of the spread during the college football season, Matthew Berry's fantasy life, to get his thoughts on this week's Senior Bowl in Mobile. Thor, thank you so much for making time for us today, bud.
Of course. Yeah, we're coming off an eventful practice week here in Mobile, and it's good to talk to you boys.
Yeah, Thor, the Bills right now have some questions on the defensive line. Do they bring back Von Miller? What do they do at defensive tackle? Do you move on from Daquan Jones? You need more depth. From everything we're reading in your feed here, this seems like this is a pretty good year maybe to be selecting at the bottom of the first round if you need D-line help.
Sure is, yeah. In particular, that interior defensive line, and we saw some proof of concept of that here in Mobile this week. But yeah, that it probably is the most stacked position group in this year's NFL draft. We got to see Walter Nolan down here, a guy who's trying to make a case that he's a top 20 pick, and you know, saw some other guys that are going to be going day 2 and round 1 possibilities. But yeah, that's where you want to be. Obviously, you guys know I'm a Vikings fan, and it's a similar case for the Vikings. You know, picking there at 24, they're going to be looking at the interior defensive lineman too. But because of how stacked that position group is, you're going to see guys push down the board that probably in a past year would have gone 6-8 slots higher.
We spent a lot of time yesterday, Thor, talking about the Bills' recent early round draft picks, and we heard from Brandon Beane and we heard from Sean McDermott. Both of them mentioned the need for a player like Dalton Kincaid to get bigger and more physical this offseason in order to stay healthy in the NFL. So when you look at the recent history of some of these early round picks that the Bills have made, whether you're talking about Keon Coleman, Cole Bishop, Dalton Kincaid, certainly Kyrie Elam, what do you think the Bills have struggled with in their process here, getting meaningful production early out of these guys in their first and second years of their careers?
Man, that's tough. Like Kincaid, his struggles surprised me a little bit because that kid he showed such good ball skills that last year at Utah. The Keon Coleman one doesn't surprise me quite as much. You know, he was sort of a one-trick pony, but yeah, that's a hard question for me to answer because, you know, outside of the Coleman one, I didn't disagree with the other 2 decisions. So, and it's an organization that does a good job otherwise of bringing talent in. So, yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, we're taking a look at some of these Bills off-season moves, and maybe the Bills extend James Cook. They did draft Ray Davis. Ty Johnson is a free agent. Maybe he goes somewhere else. But Thor, it seems like this is also a pretty decent draft as far as a running back. Your thoughts on the class overall, and in particular, one guy that we're certainly familiar with right down the road. What do you think of LaQuint Allen, the running back out of Syracuse?
I got to talk to LaQuint Allen this week on Wednesday at the media availability. Very nice kid, and we talked about the receiving utility he's going to bring to an NFL offense. You know, it's like, man, LaQuint, I watched a lot of Syracuse this year, and you were the best player on the field in dang near every one that I was watching. And the cool ways that they deployed him on offense, shifting him into the slot, shifting him to the boundary. You got to see him beating cornerbacks and nickel defenders in college. And we got to see that skill as a receiver here in Mobile. And to the more general question about if interior defensive line is in the best position group in this draft, it's running back. I just didn't say running back because it's more of a devalued position. But this is perhaps the best running back class that we have had in a decade. So if you have any openings, I would advocate almost every team, take yourself a running back here. That's how deep that position group is.
That's funny. You mentioned the devaluation of the running back position, and it feels like that might be changing a bit with what you saw Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley do this year. And Gino mentioned James Cook, the season he had, and one of the conversations we're going to have is this offseason is whether or not he should be extended when that extension happens, or if running back continues to be devalued at the NFL level, is it more wise for a team like the Bills to maybe get a running back to add to Ray Davis, and then you let James Cook kind of wear off some of the tread on his tires?
Yeah, I mean, either way, if I'm the Bills, I'm probably I'm probably waving goodbye to Ty Johnson. I hope he's not listening right now. But I would, and that's, I'm creating an opening in my running back room so I can get in on the bonanza that is the 2025 running back class in the NFL draft. Because you're going to get a round and a half discount on guys starting in the third round from where they would have gone last year when the running back class was terrible. So I just think in terms of squeezing extra equity out of the value of the picks that you're taking, that's what I would do. The James Cook decision, that'll be interesting to see. But if something went awry there and you needed a starting caliber back, there is going to be plenty you're going to see a parade of them on day two. On Friday night, last Friday night of April, tune into the NFL draft. You are going to hear a lot of running backs' names called.
We're talking to Thor Nystrom, Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life. Our guest, he is in an Uber down in Mobile, Alabama. Thor, as far as the position groups that are strong, defensive line and running back you mentioned, coming out of this week at the Senior Bowl, are there any position groups where you think that it might be a little thin? If you have that need, you might have to reach a little bit.
Wide receiver for sure. This wide receiver class is way down from some of these classes we've seen the last 5 years. You have only the one guy that appears to be a top 10 I think he is, Tedero McMillan from Arizona. You already start getting questions about the people after that. Like Luther Burden, his stock is down. He's a pure slot. Didn't have as good of a season last season at Missouri. He's probably going to be a mid-first round pick. Matthew Golden from Texas, probably going to be there. But, you're already sort of running out of, guys where it's Emeka Egbuka for sure, but he's a slot receiver as well. And then after that, you got questions on a bunch of these guys' evaluations. This would be the year that I would skip wide receiver in the draft, if at all possible.
Thor Nystrom, Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life, our guest in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Let's see, Riley Leonard, Jackson Dart, Dylan Gabriel, Jalen Milroe. These are familiar names. They each finished their college careers with established programs. How'd they look this week during practice, and will we see them on the field here come Sundays?
Jalen Milroe probably was one of the biggest stock down guys at the event. That's a guy where if he had a really good pre-draft process, you might have seen the trajectory that you saw with Anthony Richardson a couple of years ago coming out of the SEC and rally into the top 10 of the draft. We're going the other way with Jalen Milroe after what I saw the last 3 days here in Mobile. Badly struggled with accuracy, badly struggled staying on time with the passing concept. So typically you'd see him be late, and then the pass would be errant. We did see some of the flashes from his arm. He has an enormous arm, and he is a tremendous athlete. He's going to run in the 4.3s a month from now in Indianapolis at 225 pounds. So the hype will return at that point, but the struggles we saw passing with him in Tuscaloosa and then what we saw out there this week at Mobile, that's a guy I don't know that he can get into the first round anymore. But, again, he is going to get a lot of hype there once we get a month from now in Indy.
Tell us about a guy from Long Lake, Minnesota.
Oh, this one warms my heart,
Yeah.
Thor. I spent years as a child fishing on Long Lake, Minnesota, and, man, I was excited and delighted to see a Gopher prospect from there get a late invite to the game. What's Danny Strigo's story? Because he sure sounds like a Sean McDermott type of player.
Yeah, well, he's one of those we'll play in the parking lot, Bear Bryant kind of guys. I mean, he went to the Hula Bowl. He was just coming off that week, and then he gets a call on Wednesday night from his agent and is like, because of all the player opt-outs, Jim Nagy wants to know if you'll play in the game on Saturday. Can you hop on a plane? Like, can you start packing now? because we found you a flight in an hour and a half. If you're, we can fly overnight. You got to take 2 flights here. And he was like, I'm in. So he was down here, and ESPN or whoever was doing the broadcast, I think it was Quint Kesich. You got to interview him, and it was right when that Danny kid had gotten out onto the field, and he's like, "Oh, Quint was like, are you excited to get out there, or whatever?" He was like, "Well, I got to stretch first," and then Quint, was like, "Do you know any of the plays?" And he was like, "No, I've been flying. Like I just, So it was kind of fun. He did get out there yesterday, and where he's really going to get to potentially strut his stuff and hopefully win a couple converts in the NFL community is on Saturday. It's something that frustrates Nagy every year. On Thursday, in particular, you see the opt-outs. Some of these position groups where the guys have been standouts, they start to get thinned out because the kid's agent is like, we showed enough to the NFL. That's how this kid gets his opportunity because of those opt-outs. He is going to be out there quite a bit on Saturday. That's an opportunity, right? You convince someone, and then you can potentially go late day 3. You get your shot in the NFL. So good for that kid for hopping on that plane, getting out there yesterday on no sleep, and hopefully he gets some sleep today and tomorrow goes and puts a show on.
Thor, last one from me, and I think of my draft crushes over the years. Last year, Cooper DeJean. Do you have any draft crushes coming out of this week here at Mobile?
I do. I mean, this one is sort of close to home for me, where I went to undergrad at Kansas. I really like Devin Neal, the running back out of Kansas. He's run for over 1,000 yards 3 straight seasons. He can catch the ball as well, and a 220-pound back with incredible feet. Like that's what his special sauce is. You don't see backs that big with the footwork that he has. He'll just wipe out defenders or set up defenders to wipe each other out, stringing together some of these violent cuts that he does in the open field. And he showed that footwork here in Mobile and the versatility with the receiving. That's a guy that's probably going to go in round 3 because of how stacked the running back class is, and I think he's going to be a steal.
Thor, tell us about the work you're doing over there at Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life. As we're getting into your prime season here, this is all you, man. Draft analyst and looking ahead to another season here in the NFL.
We sure are. Yeah. On Sunday, we're going to drop our risers and fallers from this week. We'll take in the game tomorrow and just see if anyone opens eyes there. But check out Fantasy Life for risers and fallers from the Senior Bowl on Sunday. We recorded an episode this morning of risers and fallers from the practices that you can check out on Fantasy Life's YouTube page. And as you boys know, we're going to be going position by position with the scouting report, starting to stack those. And then we're going to work all the way up to the NFL draft week before or so every year, putting out the Thor 500 with the 500 comps as well on the big board. So check all that out at Fantasy Life.
How many words are you going for in the Thor 500? And what's your record, and do you have a number in mind for this year?
I will make James Joyce, the author of Ulysses, blush with how many words that we drop on the 2025 NFL draft class. And you guys know this is a labor of love. So, I can't wait to dive deeper into some of these other prospects and some prospects here that caused me to be like, man, I didn't see that in college. I got to get back to the tape. There was this Arkansas receiver, Isaac Tesla, that came up from a subdivision. And this past year at Arkansas, they had a crowded receiver room. Their quarterback is not very accurate. But that Isaac Tesla kid was opening my eyes in practice. He's a bigger frame. He has speed, and he can make plays on the ball downfield. So it's just an example of a guy where it's like, I got to get back in and watch that guy's tape. But, it's always a fun time, boys.
Thor, safe travels back up north. Appreciate your time today.
Appreciate you guys. We'll talk soon.
There's Thor Nystrom. Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life joined us earlier here in the Sports Bar Danger and Battaglia from Mobile, Alabama, as the Senior Bowl practices wrap up and the game coming up this weekend.
Can we talk about the running backs here for a second? Because Ty Johnson's an unrestricted free agent. He was asked, hey, basically said, look, I'd like to come back, but it's not up to him. Talk to my agent kind of thing. That's probably a good thing, right? If other teams are looking at, wait a second, do we want to go spend money here, or do we want to draft a guy in the mid rounds? Because, yes, you could get somebody cheaper. I get that. But I really like Ty Johnson. I hope the Bills find a way to get him back.
The question would be to me, is Josh Allen go with keeping Ty Johnson? Like, if Josh Allen wants Ty Johnson, then Ty Johnson will be the third down back for the Buffalo Bills next season.
Did you not see the catch in the Denver game?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's all you need to know as far as a guy who can be technically your third running back on this team that can be doing wheel routes and stuff.
I just start thinking, though, the thought process has always been in recent years, because of how devalued running backs have become, that you can move off of running backs. You don't have to invest a lot in a running back. And some of that has shifted a little bit with the performance of Saquon, with the performance of Derrick Henry this year. How much are the Bills willing to invest in James Cook? Or do they say, because this is a draft class at running back like we haven't seen in over 10 years, do we find the next James Cook? Or do we have the next James Cook and Ray Davis? And do we find the next Ray Davis in this draft?
I think you don't need to draft the next James Cook. Here's why. Because that is the one position danger you just plug and play for the most part. But if you're going to spend, you want that next guy, it's at least a second-round pick. What message would that be saying? I don't need James Cook mine to be sideways.
Well, I think James Cook got a vote of confidence like I don't think we've ever heard from a coach in yesterday's end-of-season press conference from Sean McDermott. I don't know that I've ever heard Sean McDermott gush about a running back the way he did over James Cook, and it's deservedly so. James Cook was dialed in this season.
I am not over this yet. I'm over the officiating. But why aren't we talking more about why wasn't your best player in this game on the field? We talked to 13 Wham's Dan Fates, and Dan said, well, it's the rotation, and you do what you do. You're not deviating from your plan there. Okay, but this is the drive to save your season and win the game. And there's 3.5 minutes left on the clock. You're not passing every down. You want to win in a walk-off sort of fashion, do you not? Yes, the Chiefs once upon a time scored with 13 seconds. I get that. But James Cook should have been out there that last drive. And the speculation in my mind was like, oh, was he okay? Why wasn't he out there?
No, it wasn't an injury. It was as simple as, well, we're in passing down situations.
No, they weren't, though.
But that's the way they were viewing it.
They shouldn't have been.
No. This is late in the game. Third down or passing down situations, it's always Ty Johnson out there. Unless you get to a spot where Ty Johnson needs a blow, and then you bring in James Cook, which is what McDermott was saying yesterday in his press conference. You could say maybe you see James Cook if that drive extends, but I'm with you. Why wouldn't he be out there with 3:33 left? Just play your best players. The season is on the line here. You can deviate a little bit. That said, Cook isn't the best in pass protection, and maybe because it's a passing situation, that's why you have Cook on the sideline.
But it wasn't passing. That's what I'm saying, though. If there was 2 minutes left, okay, I'd listen to that.
Yeah.
3.5 for Josh Allen.
I still go back to, if we're going to go back to Sunday and rip the Band-Aid off again, every year it feels like Josh Allen does his part. It feels like the offense does their part. We're being critical of this final series because they fell short, but damn it, the defense gave up 32 points to Kansas City. They gave up more points to Kansas City than any other team did this season. 29 points was scored by that Bills offense. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more out of the defense.
Well,
Sean McDermott.
I reserve the right to this, but I hear that. And if you're going to go draft here, you need help on the back end. You need help on the line. You need to get guys that can make tackles and make plays. They don't have enough of them.
Sean McDermott is the liability to me. It's not Josh Allen. It's not the offense. It's always been McDermott. He's fine. He's not going anywhere. I'm not saying fire McDermott. But in these situations, when we look back and we can say what has been the constant when the Bills haven't gotten over, it isn't Josh Allen doesn't play well. It's not the offense doesn't produce.
Cincinnati.
That was rough.
Yeah,
that was rough for everybody. That was just a poor team performance. But whether it's not having James Cook out there, your defense allowing 32 points, your special teams giving up a big punt return that leads to a touchdown, this all falls on Sean McDermott.
I'll go back to the first Houston playoff loss. Like, that's Josh in his infancy, and okay, he wasn't in the top 3 reasons why the Bills lost that game.
Right.
First loss to Kansas City, AFC Championship. Okay, maybe you weren't ready for that spot, but every other one of these losses, it's on the D.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how they fortify that defense here as we get closer and closer to April in the NFL draft. We've got a lot of time to pick apart some of these prospects. Of course, we have the Combine about a month from now in Indianapolis, so that'll probably be likely the next time we hear from Sean McDermott and Brandon Bean as far as what their plans may be in building their 2025 team roster. Great to have Thor on with us this afternoon from Mobile.
Yeah, we got time for your calls on the other side at 866-4FAN, 866-432-6. I have another take that I want to put the rest here. When we get back on Monday, I really want to just kind of start new here. Don't want to talk about the Chiefs, but there's one thing going around online. Just stop, people. Stop, please, about this game.
There's a pretty big occasion happening tonight in Buffalo. It's a special occasion, and man, I would just my wish is that this occasion could be celebrated during happier times, and I'll explain what's going on and why on the way next. And we'll take more of your calls, as you mentioned, Gino, 866-4326, our phone number, 585-866-4FAN.
And streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
It's the first Friday in quite some time since we didn't have any Buffalo Bills news to tell you about. The team wrapping up things yesterday. Sean McDermott knows for next year, it starts with the big guys.
You've got to play well up front. In the games where I've been in the Super Bowl, it's your front is what gets you there, right? I mean, you have to have a good quarterback, but the O-line, the D-line, they're the guys that are getting you there. And that's an important spot for us.
Tonight's hockey night in the Flower City. The Rochester Americans look to make it 3 in a row on Rock the Riverway night. Syracuse is the opponent. Don Stevens and Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call beginning at 7 here on The Fan. Rob Ray. Rays are going into the Sabres Hall of Fame tonight. Sabres hosting Nashville. The coverage on 96.5 WCMF beginning at 7. All right, team men play at Air Force. The women host Mercyhurst. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Moving forward, I thought we had a good season.
We hurt, and we feel bad for the fans that hurt, and everyone, all of our staff. It's hard to come up short.
Mike Danger.
The whole kick down the door thing, I think if you're a fan and you want to gravitate towards a message, there's a message to gravitate towards. We're going to keep at this thing. We're going to keep kicking at that door. We're going to keep kicking at it, and eventually it's going to open up, and we're going to take full advantage of it.
Gene Battaglia.
We begin the process of looking at who might help this Bills team through the draft. You're drafting by need or trading.
F them picks.
Yeah, sure. If Max Crosby really is available, certainly if Myles Garrett really is available, you're giving up these picks.
In the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Nashville, you have been awesome.
It's just awesome.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Look at the Dandalorian.
Yeah.
Our bounty hunter of the finest audio in the galaxy doing work in the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia, glad you're with us to kick off your sports weekend. Amerks hockey tonight. I'm decked out. I'm ready. They're at Blue Cross Arena taking on the Crunch. Going to be a tough battle, a fun hockey night in the Flower City. We encourage you to go out and support your local team.
Yeah, the soundbite we used earlier from Mike Leone, he sounded just a little about Seth Appert there, talking about how heavy Syracuse is.
Hey, before you tell me about this this petition that's going on, we talked to Thor Nystrom last hour from Mobile, Alabama, the Senior Bowl wrapping up, and one of the stories from the Senior Bowl that was being reported on by ESPN that we talked to Thor about is a defensive lineman from the University of Minnesota, this kid named Danny Strigo.
Yep.
Danny Strigo got a call late from his agent saying, hey, there's a lot of people opting out. Do you want an opportunity to play in Saturday's Senior Bowl? It would require you to jump on a plane, get here first thing in the morning, get a practice. And of course, he jumped at the opportunity, said yes. He's being interviewed during practice the other day. He's taping up his wrists. He's being interviewed. He just gets on the field. He's being asked things like, do you know any of the plays? Like, nope, I don't know any of the plays. He's just there ready for the opportunity. And when I heard that story, and maybe it crossed your feed, you saw it as well, or you've been watching the Senior Bowl like a degenerate all week, the practices, I can't fault you for that. But when you hear that story, don't you just get the sense, oh, this guy has to be a McDermott guy? That's the kind of story that a guy like Sean McDermott just eats up like ice cream, right? I mean, this is the guy who was the head coach of a player who had a collapsed lung but couldn't fly but drove to get to the game.
Yep.
Like, that's the kind of player Sean McDermott likes. The only thing I was wondering that we didn't have an answer from Thor on, this is the clincher. Gino, did Danny Strigo, I have the answer, did Danny Strigo wrestle at any point in his life? Was he a high school wrestler, a college wrestler? We knew he played college football, defensive lineman, University of Minnesota. What about wrestling for Danny Strigo?
Oh, gosh. Now I'm hoping yes. Like, if you found that Danny Strigo wrestled, like, you could just play the lovey-lovey music from McDermott right now and pencil him in as a 6th-round pick for the Bills.
Gino, there are 4 Strigo brothers. They all attended Orono High School in Minnesota.
Where is that, Danger?
That's, Long Lake. It's a small town. Long Lake is where he's listed as being from.
Mm-hmm.
Long Lake, Minnesota. like I saw that, my eyes popped out of my head. Because like, oh my God, I used to go fishing, bass fishing with my old man at Long Lake every summer. We would spend weeks there. It was so much fun. Great little area in the middle of Minnesota. His brothers, Jackson, Bobby, and Danny, all won state wrestling championships in the state of Minnesota. So, if we are allowed to play matchmaker here in the sports bar, I know that the NFL is big business. The draft is still months away. But, man, wouldn't it just be like Sean McDermott to draft a kid late in the draft who won state wrestling championships in Minnesota and has that kind of opportunistic work ethic? Danny Strigo, Buffalo Bill defensive lineman.
I don't even remember the Olympic champion that the Bills brought in, but he never played football.
Gable Steveson.
Thank you. Gable Steveson, we never heard from again, because turns out you actually have to kind of...
Never played football.
No.
Gold medal wrestler.
Never played football.
Never played football.
And then when we saw him at training camp, it's like, oh, he doesn't even have the size here. So this isn't going to work. And it didn't work, and they moved on quick.
Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying they should draft Danny Strigo, but if he's undrafted, Danny Strigo is getting an invitation to Bill's training camp. That's a lock, right?
The McDermott will be on the phone.
That's a lock.
You know, usually it's the it's a feeding frenzy as soon as the draft is done. Just picture like a lot of phone calls, and you get offers, and it might be better off actually. Like, hey, you didn't get drafted in the 7th round, but now I get to choose where I want to go.
Yeah.
Sean McDermott's making that call himself.
No question.
Danny Strigo.
Danny Strigo, Buffalo Bill. We're calling it right now. On the final day of January, the season is done. Senior Bowl practice is over. I am telling you right now, January 31st, let's remember this name. Let's remember where this kid lands, because if it's not with Buffalo, Sean McDermott is sleeping. He's sleeping at the wheel. This is his guy.
Does Danny Strigo go to the Combine? If he went to the Senior Bowl, I would think he would go to the Combine, right?
I would think so.
Yeah.
6'5", 255. So kind of undersized.
Yeah.
A little undersized.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to say that he's going to be I'm not telling you he's making the team. I'm not telling you he's going to be a great pro. I'm just telling you, based on that resume, based on that story, oh, that's a McDermott guy.
We all have that friend where they date women and
they have a type.
They have a type.
Yeah.
Sean McDermott has a type.
He has a type.
He's a type.
This is his type. All right.
On that note, Danger,
yeah.
I want to put something to rest, all right? And let me just kind of come right out of the box here. I know I'm going to offend somebody. Change.org is dumb. It really is, okay? This is making the rounds this week on Change.org.
Change.org is the petition website, right?
Right. Transparency and accountability from the NFL, the commissioner, and the referees. This petition is a rallying cry for fairness and accountability in the NFL. We demand a full independent investigation.
Oh, good. Good.
Can anyone tell me?
Can you read that again just one more time? I'd like to hear the petition that's being presented there, if you don't mind.
I'm afraid the fart noise is going to... I knew it. Transparency and accountability from the NFL, the commissioner, and the referees. This petition is a rallying cry for fairness and accountability.
That's a rallying cry right there.
In the NFL, we demand a full independent investigation. Can you imagine that? Like, wow, they're right. We have to investigate.
Yeah, the NFL.
How that wasn't a first down.
Uh-huh.
If you think, well, me signing this doesn't hurt, right? Well, just ask yourself this. Can anyone tell me in history the one time anything good came out of a petition? This is something I remember in grade school I did for better snacks in the cafeteria. Really, it is a 10-year-old mentality, the petition.
The online petition.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of when a petition changed the world. Maybe the petition leads to something else that can provoke change, but I'm struggling. I'm struggling with the petition that actually created that change.
2,500 Bills fans have signed this. Stop.
speaking of indigestion, tonight is a special night. Rob Ray is entering the Sabres Hall of Fame. The team hosting Nashville at KeyBank. Action will be on CMF. We've got Amerks Hockey here. They're a winning franchise. Ray's name was added earlier to the Hockey Hallway by Terry Pegula. The Hockey Hallway. Now, I should know that there was a Hockey Hallway, but it just sounds kind of like it's the Hockey Hallway.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
The hockey, they did a big ceremony. They had a little piece of Velcro, like Sabres logo over his name, and Terry is there, and it's just a photo op. And I'm going to take off the Velcro Sabres logo, and there's Rob Ray's name in our Hockey Hallway. And the way the team has been playing, Gino, during the drought, maybe we should be happy his name wasn't added to the Sabres stall. Maybe if Pegula wants to get fans excited, unveil that he's selling the team. Look, it's a great honor for a Razor. He's been generous with the community. He's been a big part of Western New York as a player and now as an analyst for the Sabres. By the way, he'd probably be okay with Pegula selling the team at this point, too. I think Razor, you can hear his frustration on the call sometimes. It's like, I think Razor's kind of had it with this team being the way they've been.
There is just that. You got to listen carefully for it. But I agree with you on that. Boy, the mind of Terry Pegula, if you could hop inside. Is he one that, like, now that the Bills are short of their ultimate goal, like, oh, let me check in on the Oh.
I don't know about that. Remember, I mean, he traveled to the locker room and gave them the message that nothing was going to change. So maybe
how has that worked out?
Yeah,
exactly?
It's really made a difference, as you could tell from the quality of play on the ice. I'm being critical. They had two players scored hat tricks against Boston the other night. Maybe that was the turning point. We keep waiting, like, what's the turning point? I'll tell you when the turning point is. When you see this team rattle off as many wins in a row as they lost earlier this season, then maybe I'll pay a little bit more attention.
It's not happening.
But it's not happening.
It's not happening. Like, these are the highlights that you can hope for in any particular Sabres season. RJ night. They beat Chicago the last time. Like, those are the things where, hey, you're a Sabre fan, and this is part of our winter, and we appreciate that. And you hope tonight that, hey, Rob Ray, thank you for always sticking around, and we appreciate you sticking with us, and hopefully they win tonight. And that will be the end of your highlight film for the Sabres 24-25 season.
Well, they'll get a good crowd tonight. He deserves it, but this is also to get butts in seats.
The trade deadline's in March. And you haven't fired Kevin Adams yet.
There have been trades, by the way, in the NHL. I've seen some movement. There have been some players moving around.
Well,
I know.
Wait a second. You don't understand, Danger.
Tell me.
You have taxes here in New York. And we have these conversations with teams. And you don't understand. It's not like we have palm trees here that will attract players.
Right. That's right. Okay.
Here's a thought, and this is a serious issue, right? Like this story about Justin Tucker, and I'm going to say the unpopular thing. Let's just kind of let this play out, right?
Nobody wants to hear that, Gene. You have to convict him now. He is guilty. He did all these terrible things. He's going to lose his job. His life is over. Now. It has to happen now. Don't let it play out.
Something's off here, though, to me, okay? And let's say, okay, it was true. Okay, the story from the Baltimore Banner that Tucker, according to the story, allegedly banned from 2 spas. Banned. Okay, we don't know why, but I think we can all draw our conclusion. This isn't an individual. This is a business. If you're banning somebody for that behavior allegedly, the business, why are you calling authorities? This isn't an individual that, okay, we know all the issues surrounding something like that. Like, generally speaking, bad behavior, if you're a business, you're calling the authorities, right? I don't know.
I hear what you're saying, and I especially hear the part of let's see how it plays out. Everybody's issuing their statement, right? Tucker came out and vehemently denied, called these accusations ridiculous. The Ravens put out their statement. The NFL put out their statement. And what they're doing with their statement is basically saying what we're saying, which is, let's let this play out. They're going to take it seriously. Wink, wink. They take this thing seriously, Gene, but they're not going to act. Nothing will happen until and there have been no files charged or no charges filed, right? There hasn't been any arrests.
No, these are allegations at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand when you're talking to victims of sexual assault, that's an issue that if it's somebody that doesn't want to come forward, okay, that's
a hard thing to come forward.
It absolutely is. If this is a business owner doing this, it's almost like you're protecting your own business and you don't want the authorities showing up, but we're going to ban you anyways, and now you're going to come out years later and be part of this. It just doesn't sit right to me.
Well, it's it would be obviously be a bigger story if it was a quarterback or a player, but he's a kicker. But he is one of the greatest kickers of all time, if not the greatest kicker of all time. So I don't think that this is going to go away necessarily as quietly as maybe like the Matt Araiza story did when the Bills just cut him after all those allegations. By the way, he'll be punting, if he is punting, a week from Sunday. Jesus. But keep an eye on this. Let's see how this plays out.
Well, and Tucker, it's probable that these Ravens might have moved on from him anyway, just based on performance, or at least would have brought in some competition. He did not have a good year. He's at the back end of his career. I didn't think I would say who would have the best one-liner about this. Antonio Brown, did you see this?
What? No, I did. I don't follow him.
No, I don't follow him either, but this came across my feed. I'm like, oh, he didn't think of this himself as one of those people. It's not Justin Tucker. It's Justin Tugger.
Gino. Throw on some sunglasses when you're saying that. That's good. AB. Wow.
AB.
Yeah. NFL play. I mean, I guess some players will just do whatever they have to do to get signed by Cleveland.
Well, the thing that people are bringing up now, it's the old comments from Ray Rice and the zero tolerance and everything else that came out of that. All right, now you're being put to the test here about this. And the Ravens are going to go to the stiff arm. Probably they should right now. Let's let this play out. Right. But if they find anything danger, that's it.
Yeah. God, speaking of the Browns, I just think to myself, with what we've seen in the NFL since they gave that $230 million fully guaranteed contract to Deshaun Watson, how much has changed with the Browns and the other element at play, Baker Mayfield. I think about what the Browns could have been had they held on to Mayfield.
It was, to me, egregious. Baker Mayfield got hurt that year. He played through injury that year. And, he was still on the roster, still under contract. I think he had the command. You didn't need to do that. I mean,
it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous.
And I have a feeling that and that's not a feeling. I mean, Haslam wanted a better quarterback, thought that maybe Watson would be a better quarterback, even with all of that, an upgrade over what you had in Baker Mayfield. And it's like, did you watch Baker Mayfield play? Because he beat Pittsburgh in the postseason. He beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh in the postseason. He was a warrior for that organization. And I don't know, if his personality clashed with Stefanski or any of that stuff.
Well, that's a part of it. Did he not do the owner? But you're getting the Browns in national TV commercials. You had Baker Mayfield doing that. Wow, this is an organization that kind of turned the corner. And you went from a guy that was kind of likable. You're bringing in this guy? How did you think this was going to go?
It is absolute malpractice.
Well, I'm curious as what Coach Prime has to say.
Oh.
Well, look, they're in a position here to draft Shedeur Sanders if they want to.
Yeah.
And honestly, the Browns should draft their next quarterback. We say the cap isn't real. Well, it is real. They will probably hold on to Deshaun Watson and just kind of...
one more year.
Yeah, put him on the bench, whatever it is, your persona non grata. Maybe they just tell him to stay home all 17 games. Who knows how it plays out. But if you have an opportunity to draft a quarterback, but if you're the father of Shedeur Sanders, somebody who's an NFL Hall of Famer, somebody who's so well respected, Are you not saying no? Do not draft my son. I don't want. And Browns fans are probably saying, yeah, you got a point there, Gene.
You might also say, while you're at it, don't draft Travis Hunter because my name is attached to him as well. I don't want anything to do with either of my guys playing for your franchise. But that's the player I think they would go for at 2. They get Travis Hunter, and you've got a guy that can play both ways and a superstar, but a superstar that doesn't have anybody to throw the football to him. And, a part of it, I don't know. It feels like the constant is the Browns will do the Brownsiest thing. The sad thing is, with Baker as their quarterback, with what they were doing with Baker, with Stefanski, they were on the path to being closer to what the Bills are, which is a perennial contender. And not just to win the division, but to make it to the Super Bowl. Like the Browns with that defense, with a competent offensive line, with Baker Mayfield as a quarterback, Chubb is their running back. I mean, we could play a lot of what ifs, but they would be contending in the AFC North every year. Do you even view them as that going into this year, going into this upcoming season? No, you don't, because you kind of know what Deshaun Watson is at this point.
Deshaun Watson is last year in Houston. No, that wasn't the year they beat Buffalo in the playoffs. They went 4-12. J.J. Watt, I'm sorry. We wasted a year of it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't worked out, and I can't help but wonder what if, since we were talking about Tucker and the changes and everything, if you take that player who's got this history and you say, that's a guy I want on my team, what does it do to the organization to bring somebody like that into the organization? Look at what Cleveland did, man. Look at what they did with Deshaun. Not only bringing him in, but giving him all that money. It's going to go down, and I'm not saying that if they kept the other thing, they keep Mayfield, they have all those draft picks too. Now, I'm not saying they get those draft picks right, but you have football players that you can add to your already fortified roster. I just think that, when we look back at that, it's going to go down as the worst trade in the history of the NFL. We'll take a break here, and we'll come back with your calls. We have time for them at 866-4326. And right now, if you'd like to win a free pair of tickets to see Train with special guest Edwin McCain on August 8th at CMAC, courtesy of the Bowery Presents, you can win them now at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. Tickets go on sale. They went on sale this morning at 10 a.m. Ticketmaster.com. You can get those tickets right now at Ticketmaster.com, or you can win them for free from us here at The Fan at 866-4FAN. Again, caller 5, 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports
It's hockey night tonight in the Flower City. Rock the Riverway night. Amherst wearing specialty jerseys as Syracuse will be the opponent. And Coach Mike Leone on the crunch.
It's a good opportunity tonight to play against a real heavy team. We've played pretty much everyone. This was the best defensive team we'll play all year. And they're hard. And it's a different kind of game you got to play. You got to play patient. You can't cheat for offense. You got to keep doing the right thing over and over. And if you want to cheat, it'll be a long night for us.
It's the front end of the home and home. Don Stevens and Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call here on the Fan beginning at 7 o'clock. Special night in Buffalo tonight where Rob Ray going into the Sabres Hall of Fame. Sabres against Nashville. Our coverage on CMF will begin at 7 o'clock. Our IT men play at Air Force. The women host Mercyhurst. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Pull up a stool and join us. 585-866-4FAN. 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Where can I be better? Where can we be better as a staff? Where can we be better as an organization? It's not one thing, it's not one area, but you're just trying to incrementally do things just a little bit better every year because, as we said, it comes down to sometimes one play, two plays, three plays. We're not missing from a wide gap, but we do still need to find a way to make that play.
There's Bills General Manager Brandon Beane yesterday on his focus for the upcoming season. We welcome you back into the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, glad you're with us. We kick off your sports weekend here every afternoon from 3 until 6. Amherst hockey coming up tonight at 7 with Syracuse, the opponent at Blue Cross Arena.
Let's start here with the Bills. Shots coming up here as get to some of these stories we have. And look, this is kind of a foul. Like one of the things Bills fans would love to have this offseason, and I'm sure Brandon Beane would love it. Sean McDermott would love it. Landing a big-time pass rusher. Could the Bills actually pull off a trade? Danger, we've been kicking some ideas around, but one of the names that's being mentioned doesn't sound like he's going anywhere. Raiders defensive end Max Crosby on his own podcast where he spoke about, quote-unquote, chopping it up with new head coach Pete Carroll. Crosby talking about how much energy Carroll brings to the team, how he's looking forward to hearing more from him. Crosby certainly sounding like he's excited about the Raider future.
If the biggest knock on Pete Carroll is his age, I think you're doing okay, and that's a great hire for the Raiders organization. He's won Super Bowls. He still has energy, and I think he's got that kind of infectious energy that, if you believe what Crosby is saying, he's already starting to impart in some of his players. So the move for the Raiders to bring in a guy like Carroll makes a lot of sense. I like the hire. And I also think if you're Pete Carroll, if you want to win, you need good players.
Well,
he's a good player. You need Crosby.
How about this? Like, Pete Carroll's not taking the job with a 5-year plan. He's not thinking about hard for me to imagine a 78-year-old head coach in the NFL. You want to win, maybe not this year, but year after next, or maybe year number 3. How does that work with not moving off of your best player on the team, Max Crosby? He's like the cornerstone. You found it. I don't care what trade the Bills could offer up. You're putting now. If the Raiders are doing this to get draft capital, go get a quarterback. That's the only way I could see it. But hearing Crosby, he's not disgruntled at all. He's excited.
And how many quarterbacks are first-round caliber this year? 2, maybe 3.
Well, we're starting to really stretch here. When we talked to Thor Nystrom last hour, he said that Jalen Milroe didn't do himself any favors. Like, ooh.
Yeah, if you thought Milroe was a first-round quarterback, guess again. I don't know that he's going to be. I mean, a month from now at the Combine, Thor is telling us, he's going to he's going to perform really well at the Combine. But as far as his ability to throw an accurate football, it wasn't really on display in Mobile this week. So that's a knock on Milroe. And you could talk about the other guys that are playing in the Senior Bowl, whether it's Jackson Dart or Gabriel from Oregon. I mean, these guys are there at the Senior Bowl to try and increase their draft stock. The guys that already have a high stock aren't going out anywhere because all that could happen is their stock falls, right? Shador is not going to do anything. Ward isn't going to do anything because right now they're the 2 guys that everybody believes will go top 5 in this year's draft.
But Dan Orlovsky today saying he believes Jackson Dart is a first-rounder. I mean, we're at the season of takes now and misinformation. Not that Orlovsky's putting out their misinformation, but rounding this back here to, this is not the year to be, moving up in the draft for a quarterback. I mean, none of these guys are a surefire bet. 3,189. That is the number of penalty minutes for Rob Ray with the Buffalo Sabres. That is the franchise record for Buffalo, a record that is surely never to be broken. The beloved figure going into the Sabre Hall of Fame tonight as the team hosts Nashville. Ray not only loved by the city of Buffalo, but the list of attendees of former teammates that are coming back for this tonight is kind of impressive. On a night like tonight, you just hope the team actually shows up on the ice. You can hear it on 96.5 WCMF.
I think Ty Domi. Wait, are we abbreviated? Did I miss something? We're doing shots right now?
Yeah.
I'm bringing this up on the air. We're abbreviated tonight. Are we abbreviated tonight? No. We're here till 6, right?
You're kidding me. You're pulling my leg.
I really don't know. What day is it today?
It's Friday.
We don't have. Oh, we're not on. And I'm looking because Here's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because what I'm looking at has us on until 6. So we're here till 5.
Okay, yeah.
We're abbreviated. Yeah. I'm sorry, Gino.
Oh, it's all right. Oh, you know what? You could be here till 6. I
don't know. I mean, if you're going to cut out early, maybe I'll cut out early too. We'll get this party started early.
Wow, this is good to bring us. I thought we went over this.
I'm sorry. We probably did go over it, and it probably went right over my head, or in one ear and out the other. And I'm an airhead, and apparently Bo, our brand manager at the Fan here, didn't realize it either because I'm looking at our log and we're doing shots. I'm sorry. Continue.
Fine. That's fine. On an update on the fan voting for the team name in Utah. It was early in the week the team announced the 3 finalists, the Utah Mammoth, the Utah Wasatch, and Utah Hockey Club. Well, the pushback on the Wasatch was so bad that the team actually dropped it. Now in its place, the Utah Outlaws. Wasatch, by the way, the name of the mountain range north of Salt Lake City that borders Idaho.
I agree with that move. I think I don't even know. I mean, I get it. It's a local thing. But Outlaws, far more acceptable. And why do I get the sense it's going to end up being Utah Hockey Club? I just feel like it's going to be Utah Hockey Club.
Yeah, because Mammoth doesn't sound. That's
Mammoth feels very much like the Avalanche or the
the
Colorado Mammoth from the Lacrosse League. Outlaws, I'm not terribly against Outlaws, but I still think out of those 3 options, the best option is still Utah Hockey Club. I feel like that's the one that's going to win.
It's not very exciting, and their uniforms aren't really all that great. I don't know. Let's check in on Doug Gottlieb, shall we?
Oh, good.
It's looking more and more like he's going to be a one and done with Green Bay. Don't know that for sure, but Green Bay, the Phoenix, lost to Oakland last night, dropping the record to 2-21.
Is that bad?
Turns out maybe treating your coaching position like a part-time job, just like you do your radio show, isn't just a good thing after all.
Taking swipes at the national guys, Gino. We're taking swipes at Gottlieb, a national guy. Yes, you're right. Radio is a full-time job.
Yeah, it is.
And coaching is a full-time job. And if you're going to treat them both like part-time jobs, then you will get the results we should probably watch what we say here because we spend 3 hours a day here in the sports bar, 2 hours today, and we have our other jobs here for Odyssey that we do as well. We're not coaching young men on the hardwood the way Gottlieb is attempting to do.
Right, like recruitment and making sure that NIL is raised and all the what is it, the Horizon League they're playing in? And you're 2-21.
Mm-hmm. Not great. Not great, Bob.
No. Finally, James Cook might have said it best. Maybe, hey, you haven't moved on. I get it as a Bills fan. I have to clean this up. James Cook, F that ref S.
Yes.
At the end of the day, you come in ready to go. F that ref S. You got to come in there ready to play. Don't give the ref nothing to call.
Exactly right. This is what I jump on tables about every time the refs or officiating gets brought up. It's like, don't give them the opportunity. It should never come down to a blown call or two. It should be, we played well. We didn't get anything stolen from us. The Bills didn't play well enough. They lost the game. The refs, maybe they blew a call. Happens a lot. It happens a lot in professional sports. Watch the NBA. Watch the NHL. Watch the NFL. Watch baseball. My God, they miss calls all the time. Don't let it come to that. I love what James Cook said there. I wish the fans adopted more of the player mentality there as far as the officiating, because it should never come down to a call or two. Don't give them anything to call. Don't leave it up to them. And extend him now while you're at it. Now that I know he said that, go ahead, extend James Cook. Give him whatever he wants. I like that attitude. I like that mentality. I'm still surprised at just how glowingly Sean McDermott spoke about James Cook yesterday at his end-of-season press conference. I don't know that I've heard him speak that way about a skill position player ever, short of Josh Allen.
He's right, though. He was having a fantastic day. That's the part I'm not over yet. You 3:33 left. You have plenty of time.
Is this the 3:33 game?
Well,
when we lose, we have to come up with
what is the name of this game? Because
3:33. It's not 13 seconds. Is it 3:33?
It's a 4th and 1. What will be the name of that game?
4th and 5.
Yeah,
the 4th and 5 play, the last play.
Trop, there doesn't seem to be anything you can kind of.
I kind of like 3:33. 3:33 is memorable.
3:33,
Yeah, 3:33 might be memorable. Yeah, it's valid. Why wasn't he out there? Why wasn't your best player on offense out there that afternoon? We're going to take a break here. We'll come up. We'll come back next. Close up shop, and we'll get you set up for your weekend here on the Fan Rochester. Lots of action to get to. More next on the Fan.
On the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
All right, back in the sports bar, Danger and Battaglia. Abbreviated episode today. As we take you up to the top of the hour here. We have Amherst hockey coming up for you later on tonight, 7 o'clock, just after 7 o'clock. Puck drop with Don Stevens and Andrew Mossbrooks on the call. Syracuse, the opponent tonight. And it'll be interesting to see how the Amherst look. I mean, we saw what they did on Wednesday, taking care of Utica. Utica, admittedly, probably not a great year for Utica, although they've been playing better as of late. The physicality that we saw to the Amherst dating back to Saturday night's game at Hartford, how much do we see of that tonight against a physical team in Syracuse in front of a home crowd on a Friday night at Blue Cross Arena? Going to be an exciting game.
Hopefully it's a good atmosphere tonight. I expect it would be. So, again, the Amherst looking to get back up in first place this weekend. That tough, tight standings there in the AHL North.
Absolutely. All right, so this weekend, no shortage of activity going on, right? We mentioned the Amherst, Senior Bowl tomorrow. Gino, you got RIT tonight?
Got RIT tonight. I got this note coming over from baseball here. So tomorrow is February
1st. We flipped the calendar after January 73rd.
Yes, and baseball writer very excited about pitchers and catchers around the bend. Pete Alonso's still not signed. So you have these rumors like, is he going to fire Boris? What's going on? Because the Mets want him back. Doesn't seem to be a second suitor. Not the Blue Jays after they signed Santana. Not the Dodgers. Not the Giants. John Heyman, the New York Post, reporting there's another team making a late run. But tell me if you buy this or not. I don't. The Cincinnati Reds.
Really?
Considering a pursuit of Pete Alonso.
The cheap Cincinnati Reds?
The owner who said, "Oh, you want us to make money?
Why should that fan maintain trust in you?"
Well, where are you going to go? Let's start there. I mean, sell the team to who? I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, you want to have this debate. If you want to look at what would you do with this team to have it be more profitable, make more money, compete more in the current economic system that this game exists, it would be to pick it up and move it somewhere else. And so be careful what you ask for. I think we're doing the best we can do with the resources that we have.
Harsh.
Wow.
I mean,
it's an alien just laying it out.
I'm telling you, man, if I'm a Reds fan, I hear that guy, I'm like, I'm not a Reds fan anymore. Congratulations. You're terrible. That is awful. Almost as bad as John Heyman,
right?
Who got mad at a host on WFAN for wondering whether or not he was tipped.
Broken a lot of stories. I think the reason that got such play is because people believe everything I tweet. I've had 100,000 tweets, and you get one that was wrong, and it did say appears, and I know I rushed it, and it was a big mistake, and I regret it. But it's 2 years later.
No regrets.
I think
it's like
at some point, I think someone could probably drop it if they're a nice person.
What I think is one, it just like how I introduced you. Everybody in baseball knows who you are. So one, it's a credit to your work, your following, and how.
By the way, I won't be going on with you again. The whole thing has been a disaster.
That's okay.
I can't even believe you said that to question my integrity.
Are you being serious right now?
I'm being serious, yeah.
John.
Asking me if I'm getting a cut because I have a relationship with an agent. That's outrageous. I know you're not a journalist. You don't know anything about this. I know you don't, but that's an outrageous comment. You should know that
It's
much.
Friday night at 8:30, John.
You should know that much.
And I am
done with you.
I am not
I'm
taking
done with
this that
WFAN.
serious.
Goodbye.
John, thank you for
I
joining
can't
us,
even
John.
believe it.
Thank you,
I can't
John.
even believe it.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your time. He's got to get to bed. I did not expect it to go that way.
Well, look, we know it's BS. The Reds not going to spend $80 million for Pete Alonso, and the host kind of brought up the point. Like, as a reporter, do you get a cut for putting these stories out there? It's a fair question. You can't get offended by it.
Is he getting a cut from Pete Alonso's agent for putting this story out there?
Yeah, hey, Mets, he might go to Cincinnati. Like,
so if he signs with the Mets for more than the $80 million that he's being reported to be interested in from the Reds.
No, we don't even know what the Reds, if they're offering anything.
Oh.
The Mets left off at 80. They said no. I'm like, all right. And if I think Met fans, some of us are like, you know what? Go away.
Oh, boy.
I'm done.
Oh boy, be careful. Be careful here. I see what could work out here.
No misfitting stuff.
I'm telling you, if he comes back, and I'm going to remember this, that you were saying, go away at the end of January. If he comes back and he has some sort of magical run or magical season for the Mets, I'm going to be, Gene, you remember?
We've seen others leave.
Yes, you have. You've seen others leave, and you've seen others leave and have success elsewhere. You've seen guys show up. I mean, I'll maintain what I said all last year. Lindor should have been the MVP. Lindor was fantastic last year. Alonso had some moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to lose that guy.
No, I don't. Let's just get this done. And it's not Cohen. It's Pete. Come on, Pete. Tell your agent what to do.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Gino, as we close up shop here in the sports bar.
Anytime we can bring up John Heyman, I think.
Oh, God.
At one time, I'm on the phone with him. Where am I going on? Richmond?
You had no idea.
This is Rochester.
No
John.
idea. No idea.
Richmond,
He's just
yeah.
like, oh, you need me to be somewhere? I don't really want to be there, but I'll be there if you need me to be there. Okay. And then I'll be grumpy about it the entire time. He's a grumpy guy. Baseball writer. If you missed Thor Nystrom earlier today, draft analyst over there at Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life from Mobile in the Senior Bowl. Great stuff. Insight from Thor Nystrom. I think we identified the next Sean McDermott crush in this year's draft season. You can get that conversation wherever you get your podcasts. Just search out the Sports Bar. That includes the free-to-download Odyssey app. Thanks to everybody checking us out on the YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, as well as on Twitch at The Fan Rochester, where we stream live every afternoon. Gino, have a great call tonight.
All right, thanks, Danger.
Talk to you Monday afternoon, 3 o'clock, for another edition of the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. And Birdie has it. That little birdie told me that we have Luke Bryan concert tickets to give away next week. Stand by for that. JR Sport Brief next on The Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and